Hey y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop. I recently did a video on making two different router plane kits, and the comments started coming in. So yeah, we're going to be doing a video comparing different router plane styles and types to the original Stanley number 71. Let's dive in. So we made this one, which comes from Krueger. It is a very simple, traditional hag's tooth style router plane, and everything comes in this. The kit has everything, including the tools to make some of it. It's a fully comprehensive kit with two different cutters. Then I made this one from Paul Sellers, and it comes with all of the hardware. You supply the wood, and it's a really functional kit. I have made more than a dozen different types of router planes over the years. I've gotten a chance to use many different manufactured versions, from this one to the Veritas and Lee Nielsen, and even the new one from Katz Moses. And the one thing I've learned is every router plane has its pros and cons. There are different things that make them all different, and which one you should choose depends on you and the type of work you want to be doing and how much time you want to go into making one. Not to mention how much money you have as well, because that's often the key issue that comes down from making choices. So let's go through these one at a time, and I'll go through pros and cons on each one. Let's start with the most recent one I've done. This is the kit from Paul Sellers, and you may have noticed I didn't put knobs on mine, and that's because on a wooden body I don't like knobs. It raises it up so high that there's a lot of leverage. There's a tendency to rock it forward as that leverage is pushing it. On the traditional Stanleys, I don't grab the knobs. I hold it pinched down here, low to the body. And I need knobs on this because the body is so thin it's hard to hold on to. But for a wooden body, I prefer to just hold the wooden body. But the great thing about making a plane, even if it's from a kit, is you get to make it the way you want to. So if you want knobs, it comes with the hardware to put it on too. A great attachment, and I really like that about this kit. You can make it how you want to make it. With this one, the cutter and the adjuster are at 45 degrees, and that makes it very useful in that a fine movement of this nut only moves it half as much as it would if it were vertical. If it were vertical, you would get the amount of rotation you have, whereas this, you only have half the component going forward. So you get a little bit finer adjustment with having it at 45 degrees. Also, with mounting it at 45 degrees, it means it's cheaper to manufacture, cheaper to buy, because you're just buying a stick of metal. There is no L in this, and it's easier to sharpen because, well, you can sharpen a point just like a chisel. It has the two stops, so you can move it from the average use is going to be on the low one where you're doing like a 1/4 inch of movement, but you can extend it all the way forward onto the front one, and that one will give you up to 3/4 inch of cutting. It's only about once a year or more where I want to have a deeper cut than 3/4 inch. And so having something deeper than that is not huge. The problem with having it 45 degrees is if you extend it forward, now the blade is almost up to the front of the plate here, and that means you can no longer see it through the hole. And you've got to either cut your hole at a wide angle, but at this point I can't see what I'm cutting. If you're finding yourself doing a lot of deep cuts, then you may want to make this base bigger and put a larger hole here so you can see more. But for most cuts, it's plenty fine. Having some body in front of the blade makes it very easy to start the cut because I can reference it here and just run straight into it. You can see this actually goes very smoothly with a nice cut. It's a very functional plane that works incredibly well. The one downside to this one is it's the most complicated router plane I've ever put together. I wouldn't say a beginner should jump in and do this. You should have several other skills downline. With putting it at 45 degrees, that's going to make it more complicated to get everything together. And making this second piece to fit in there, it's a very, very fiddly plane to get together. Once you get together, it's a fantastic plane, but you've got to make sure everything is done right. If something is out of alignment, it's not going to work that well. Particularly the depth adjuster. If this is not perfectly parallel to the iron in both directions, then this is going to be jamming up. Once you get it there, it actually turns really, really nicely, and these knobs work perfectly for this. But if there's any slight deviation in this, it's not going to work. When I first put it in, I was out about 1/2 degree one way and about 1/2 degree the other way, and I actually had to come in with a hammer and tap it back and bend that stud to make it work. So you have to be dead on accurate to make it work. And drilling this with a drill press isn't really a great option because it's got to be at 45 degrees when you make the holes. You can't make the holes before cutting the block out. So it is a rather complicated build to make, but when you do, you have a really functional, nice router plane. Functionally, it's one of my favorites. The next one is the Rex Krueger router plane kit. Now the nice thing about this one is everything comes with it. It comes with 2 blocks of wood, it comes with 2 routers, it comes with a thumb screw, it comes with 2 set screws in case you mess up one of them, it comes with the nut and bolt required to install the set screws, it doesn't include the glue, and it doesn't include the clamps. But everything else is there. Accessible-wise, this is probably the easiest router plane I've ever made. It went together unbelievably simply. It took me about 45 minutes from start to finish, including gluing, to make this happen. Really easy plane, and it's a fully functional router plane. Now, it doesn't have fangled depth adjusters so you can micro-adjust it with a screw. It gets adjusted with a mallet, which sounds really intimidating, but with the way this works, it really works out well. There is no lateral adjustment. The only adjustment is in and out. And that's it. You hit the body and the iron rejects, and you hit the iron and it goes forward. And that's all there is to this. And if you really want to, you can screw it down, put a little bit of tension on it, and you can fine tune your adjustment. And I've found the adjustment I can get on this is way beyond the fine-tune ability that I would ever need. A router plane doesn't need an incredibly fine thousandths of an inch adjustment, but you can do that with this. The one downside to this design is there's nothing in front of the iron. So starting it, I can't start it out here like this. I have to kind of come in from a corner and tip it in a bit to get it going. Just going to set it a tad deeper, tighten that down, and now I can set it on here and I can come in from the end. Just takes a little bit more finesse and balancing, but once it's established, then I can run all the way across. That's just one of the big downsides to the old hag's tooth design, is that you need something in front of it. And I know some people will put an extended sole on it to get that greater range so you can put it all the way out there. As to comfort, this is one of the most comfortable planes I've ever had. It just feels good. Your thumbs have this place to rest back here. It pinches in nicely. It just feels so good, and it is incredibly enjoyable to use. Not to mention it comes with a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch cutter. It's a great beginner's router plane. A beginner who has never done any woodworking can make one of these. It doesn't take that much, and it gives you a great working tool that will last you for a lifetime if you take care of it. A while ago, I made this one, and this is my tenon cutting router plane. I have the exact same one as a standard router plane. I just took the blade and hardware off of it so I can put it onto this one. And this is the design that I came up with, and I really like this one. It has some of the pros and cons of both, but unfortunately I don't sell a kit. I don't have plans to sell a kit because all of the hardware is simple hardware that you can get from the store. This one does use the L-shaped cutter, which scares a lot of people, but personally, I much prefer using this over using one at 45 degrees. Because it's not at 45 degrees, you can see everything you're doing in the hole. It makes it very easy to see where it's cutting. But that means that it's going to have a little bit less finer adjustment because you're going vertical rather than at an angle. But for a router plane, you really don't need a crazy fine adjustment. I built this one with a long extension off the side, making it very easy to do tenons, and this way I can reference a large space over here and I can swing it back and forth and I can cut the whole tenon. But even for normal use, it makes it very easy to start the cut because I can set this on here and I can just work it in from the end and then go to town. But the great thing about making your router plane, no matter what design you choose, is you can make it however you want to make it. You can make it with knobs, you can make it without knobs, you can put carving into it, you can make it with a long side, you can make it incredibly comfortable. You can do whatever you want to do. As a matter of fact, these two are the exact same design, just different bodies. So how do they compare to the traditional Stanley number 71? Now the biggest complaint about the 71 is it has a lot of slop in this knob. It rolls back and forth. And it's got all these other doohickeys in the mouth and the bridge and other things you can put onto it, and it just kind of turns a few people off. But as to the slop in the knob, why would there be that much slop? The answer is this is actually a feature. This is not slop. You want this movement. What I can do is I can keep this tight and I can move this down, and it has the amount of slop of the thickness of one shaving. Once I have this moved down to the bottom of the slot, I can loosen this and the iron will drop one shaving thickness. I tighten this back up and I can go to town. I get the exact depth of cut I want. And then to move it down one step more, I rotate this so it's sitting against the bottom of the slot, loosen it, the iron falls, tighten it, and we've moved down one step more. And that right there is one of the things I love about this plane, is it makes the adjustment so easy and simple because this slop gives you the cut you want. The Veritas, the Lie-Nielsen, the Katz Moses, they all eliminate the slop, and that drives me bonkers because this is useful. Okay, I can get off my soapbox. Sorry about that, but yeah, that's one of my favorite pet peeves. When I first got into hand tool woodworking, you could pick up a beat up router plane that had one cutter for 30, 40, maybe 50 bucks. And if you wanted one with everything, it would be about $80. Whereas now, you can't touch these for under 100 bucks, even when they're missing an iron. They have become, well, there's a lot of people wanting to do woodworking, and a lot of users out there really want to get these. Unfortunately, no, it's not the collectors. The collectors could care less. It's the users that are driving up the price because there have been so many people getting into the sport recently. And because of the price, a lot of people have been looking at making kits and making them themselves because you can make them relatively easily. And if you want to make it even cheaper, you can get the poor man's router. Look up Paul Seller's poor man's router. The same guy who made this kit, he shows you how to grab a scrap 2x4 and a 1/2-inch chisel and put them together and you've got a router plane. You don't need something incredibly expensive. You don't need something with all the bells and whistles to do it. The bells and whistles just make it a little bit easier and more fun. So which router and which kit should you get? If you are strapped for money, then go make it yourself. You can get simple hardware store hardware and put one together, and something like this is relatively easy. If you want to support one of the makers and you are a beginner, you've got a little bit of money to throw at it, but not a whole lot, the Rex Krueger is the one I would go with. This is a great beginner's router plane. Anyone can make this. If you just started with woodworking, you can put one of these together. If you've got a little more skill under your belt, but you don't have the money for one of these and you want something that's more functional with bells and whistles, the Paul Seller's router plane kit is an awesome option. Works really, really well. But in all honesty, when I'm working in the shop, which one of these do I grab? I'm gonna grab my 71. I really like this thing. The only thing I don't like about this, and the one thing I wish I could get, is a slightly larger body. Now I do have a body I can bolt onto the bottom, but if this had a slightly larger body, I would absolutely love it. So what's your favorite router plane? Have you made any of these kits, or is there a specific one you like? I would love to hear that, and I often learn a lot. If you see of something that I haven't made, if there's something you want me to try out, let me know. I'll keep my eyes open, and maybe there'll be another router plane video coming in the future. There probably will be, because I really enjoy making these. They're incredibly fun, and they're useful, and it's a great way to save a little bit of money when you're first getting into it. If you have any other thoughts or comments or things I forgot, throw those down in the comments down below. There's always things that I should have said that I didn't say, and I like knowing that so I can make it better in the future. So if you think of something to teach me, please let me know. That does actually help out the channel. Anytime you comment, like, share, subscribe, you're helping us grow, so thank you. The algorithm is all powerful here on YouTube, and that does help us out, so thank you. And if you want to go even farther and really help us out, all of these names over here, those are all patrons on Patreon. Without patrons or members, people who've clicked the thank you button down below, we wouldn't exist. We are here because of you. You sponsor us, you keep us going, and that way I can say what I want to say about different products rather than someone sponsoring me and telling me what they want me to say. So if you like that, then think about becoming a patron, and I think that'll do it for now. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Come on. Come on. The one feature none of these get, no Wi-Fi.